And welcome back to another episode of the Geek Centurions, boys. It's your boy Eli.
Big Joe.
And we're here to talk about Moon Knight and Halo, the two shows that we're currently watching right now at the moment, mostly because we have nothing else to do.
Next week,
Strange.
Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. So
And the Illuminati.
yeah,
I'm still upset that they, show that off.
I haven't seen most of the trailers, but who's not, granted, my knowledge of comics is I have a good amount of knowledge of comics, but it's not as deep as yours, and even I'm like, are they setting up Illuminati stuff? Because this seems like Illuminati stuff. But yeah, no.
I didn't say nothing till you watch it.
All right. So, that's going to be a thing for next week, hopefully, if we can get schedules down right. But more importantly, today we're going to be talking about the latest 2 episodes of Moon Knight and then the latest 2 episodes of Halo.
Thankfully, the first episode of Moon Knight's real fast, because the big one's going to be the second episode of Moon Knight.
Yeah, the second one is the real, bombshell.
Yeah.
Pretty much kind of unravels a lot of what Mark Spector and Stephen Grant's characters are essentially. But yeah, it's
Let's start off with Moon Knight.
Yeah, let's start with Moon Knight.
Yeah. So the first episode essentially is just Steve and Layla just trying to find the tomb of this Egyptian god whose name keeps
Amet.
And they do, but it's clearly obvious that Steve and Layla are kind of like into each other.
They're kind of vibing.
They be vibing good.
Yeah, they're kind of vibing.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens when you travel craft across the world.
I mean, yeah. And Mark essentially is kind of like, let me take over the body, Steven. All right? This is dangerous. You're going in there. There's going to be people with guns. You need me, especially because we don't have Moon Knight powers anymore.
And you're going to need someone with skills.
Yeah, and just and they're like, no, he's probably gonna try to make this a solo mission. He's gonna do it by himself. We gotta, in order to figure this out, we need Steven.
Yeah, and so it's essentially the whole episode is them going around trying to go into the cave. It's a very nice character centric episode for Layla, but also a very kind of fun horror episode.
Yeah, because there's some I guess very mummy related shenanigans going on.
Yeah.
Not the new Mummy with Tom Cruise, but probably
Brendan Fraser level
mummy stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I mean, there's literally a creature going like.
Yeah. You get some weird stuff. You get a guy basically getting his heart torn out, I think. It's not shown because this is still Disney Plus stuff going on here. Mm-hmm. But you definitely know he's doing something with some jars and a hook of some kind. But yeah, like you said, it's a very sort of a good character moment for Layla because she's essentially has to deal with some of this stuff as well as has kind of a confrontation with Harrow.
Yeah, it's essentially sitting around like, hey, Steven's not the kind of guy you know.
Rather, Mark.
Sorry.
Mark's, he's hiding something, from you. There's a reason why he's always been,
distant
for stuff like that, And obviously, eventually, when they finally meet back up, she's like, all right, Mark, get out here. I need to talk to you.
He was like, hey, Layla, how you doing? And I'm in trouble. Okay, yeah, no. Yeah, and essentially the episode ends with, Mark getting shot and sent to what appears to be the underworld. Which, okay, this is the one we can talk about. It's just the weird, idea of if his mind, or, because we know where he is now. He's, in some sort of, a limbo area. And it's kind of like an asylum.
Because, to be fair, the way this episode does end is that, yes, Harrow meets up with them. And they find the tomb of, I think, Alexander the Great, who is, I guess, the avatar for Amet. They find the thing, to like essentially release Ahmed, essentially, or whatever. But Mark, to have the last stand, he gets shot, and then we cut to him essentially being in this, like you said, like an asylum, like a mental hospital or something. And it almost seems like a bit of a twist of like, wait, has this all been like just some weird mental game kind of thing? Because Harrow's here, but he's like his doctor. Like the Stephen Grant thing is like a movie thing. Like maybe it's like
Layla's there.
yeah, as a patient
The
there.
2 cops are there.
Yeah, there's like Moon Knight is like a little toy in his hand. So it definitely like tries to fake you out a bit and like, wait, has this all been like
In his head.
in his head? But no, as it, by the end, you know that like, oh no, this is some sort of weird limbo scenario, because he finds Steven and like they're essentially like in their own bodies essentially.
Yeah. And there's also the thing about like there being a third sarcophagus, because Steven's hidden inside of the sarcophagus, and as they're walking around, there's a third sarcophagus, with a little like someone in there trying to get out, and that's where we meet. I forget her name, but she's another Egyptian god.
I think it's Watet or something.
Something like that.
She's like a hippo.
Yeah.
She's a weird looking hippo thing, and like she comes bursting through the door, and she just goes, "Hello." And it's like they lose their shit because it's a talking hippo.
Yeah, because I mean, at this point, you would lose your mind over a talking hippo.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that leads into the episode, and this is a very dense episode for the time that we had to talk about, because essentially it goes into the origin of Mark, and essentially just like where did these personalities come? It's his deconstruction moment.
Yeah, like this whole. Like the episode explains that, hey, yeah, you guys are in this limbo area. We're basically on this boat. We're gonna reach. We're basically going through the Egyptian underworld right now. And you guys need to balance your scales because that's Egyptian mythology stuff. If your scale's not balanced, you get basically sent to hell. If there's balance, then you'll be in what essentially is heaven.
Yeah.
Quick to the point, and so that's how essentially like Mark has to like let Steven in and like let him experience like the stuff he's been through. Like they go through a room of just all the people that Mark has killed.
It is a number 2.
There's a lot of people in there,
like cafeteria level.
Yeah, there's a whole.
Like, go to the cafeteria, you see all those people are sitting down eating. That's how many people he's killed.
Yes.
They made that joke.
Yeah. And Steve, Mark tried to justify. It's like, hey, listen, all right, I was a mercenary. Like, eventually you get, you gotta like, these are people I killed for Khonshu because they did, like Khonshu said they deserved it and stuff, and you just learn to live with it. And then there's a little boy who's running around.
Little boy.
Yeah, and Steve's like, who's this kid? Mark, did you kill this kid? And Mark's like, no, don't chase him, Steven.
And this is where we start getting to the repressed memories kind of shit.
Yeah.
And it's Jesus Christ, because what you find out is that kid was Mark's little brother. And I don't know how people will feel about this, but I really commend the writing for this episode, because it's one of those things. So you remember, like, what was it, a year or two ago we were talking about Watchmen, right? And how there was a point in the story where like everything started making sense by when this one episode came out, and it was the episode where we find out the past of Hood's justice, and how like it all started connecting.
Yeah,
this is that kind of thing where, because they left not I wouldn't say breadcrumbs, but like little like hints and nods of like why Steven does what he does. Because I mean, one of the most notable things is obviously the mother. The line "See you later, Gator," and a lot of the stuff that if you notice, especially when with Khonshu, everything starts connecting, making sense into this episode, really, because we find out that one, Steve, like I said, Mark had a brother, and they went off to play, and You know what happens always with that kind of stuff. Two kids going out to play,
in a cave somewhere.
and the rain's coming. If it ain't Pennywise, some kid's gonna drown,
Yeah.
and that's what ended up happening. So essentially, um, Mark, not his fault, by the way, um, unintentionally caused the death of his younger brother, which led to his mother snapping.
Yeah, she has a straight up like it's your fault. You killed them moment at their at their funeral wake at their home, which is just yeah.
No, yeah, it starts getting really uncomfortable real fast.
She just straight up just doesn't even like come down to like celebrate his birthday.
She barely acknowledges him.
I think she like starts drinking a lot.
Yeah,
It's just a lot.
a lot of physical, verbal, and like mental abuse.
Yeah.
Like there's a like and the dads can't do nothing, and it's one of those things where like he, I don't blame him, but at the same time you have to do something about this, you know.
I mean, yeah, like it definitely seems like the dad like I mean from what we see cuz a lot of it is just sort of
From his perspective.
yeah, of Mark's perspective is like it does seem like the dad is trying his best, but it's just very like it's just a very tense situation all around for all of them. And yeah, you know, it's sort of like uh there's you get that moment of like
And this and it's just like it's really also add on to the fact that Mark doesn't want to talk about his past.
yeah.
He doesn't want to talk about this. He is continuously, fighting back, Steven from going into it and finding out about what happened, all this stuff. And eventually Steven has to eventually find out. And one of the big twists that happens is that, and I guess this is what I'm saying, like they made sure that you knew beforehand, like where the inspiration for like little hints and clues about this stuff, like because in the previous episode we find out that Stephen Grant was a character in a movie, kind of like Indiana Jones level, right? And so this is probably the hardest thing to watch. It's the scene where Mark is like hiding from his mom, and he just like locks the door or whatever, and he's just trying to like find a way to like to cope with it. And he just immediately manages himself being Stephen Grant, the Indiana Jones guy who can he can take a hit kind of shit, you know. And it's even funny because that's also a movie that him and his brother used to watch.
Yeah, like when they're exploring the cave, they straight up are mimicking those characters. Of like they're just pretending, like,
Yeah.
Of like, oh, I'll be Steven this time. You'll be the sidekick. It's like, okay, all right.
And he uses that to like sort of like the thing to make him like take the hits, right? The personality to take all the abuse.
Yeah, because that's what happens is that like essentially switches to the Steven personality. Starts to be like, oh, I gotta clean my room and stuff. I gotta be develops even the accent and everything. And when the mom comes in, it's very implied that she straight up.
It's very implied, dude. She grabs a belt.
yeah, that she straight up just beats him. And to be fair, like Mark is like just like you're not supposed to see that. Like the reason, like Mark pretty much says like the reason why you are who you are is because, like you're there to like be able to like avoid seeing all that stuff.
He's there to like take all the negativity that's happened in his life,
and try to live that normal life. Not to believe that their mom was a kind person and not someone who lost their mind essentially.
Yeah. And like even it's in between moments that he switches back from like being in the asylum to being out of the asylum, and this one like we see Steven be meeting the darker Harrow look, and I thought that was also that's one of the most funniest, but also like the most revealing of what's happened because he makes fun of him looking like Ned Flanders, which I'm like, oh shit, he kind of does look like Ned Flanders. Damn, that's pretty funny. But also the fact that like, hey, dude, your mom's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, no, 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 my mom's not dead. Because the whole time, Steven's just like talking to his mom, right?
He's leaving phone voicemails for his mom.
Yeah, and just like, you know, implying that he and his mom had a great relationship. But now we at this point we know it's not true, and I'm not saying that it was like an obvious thing. Like we all knew that she might have been dead, but like, but the context as her being dead and the relationship between these two is like, oh, oh God, that's that's terrible.
I mean, yeah, like sure. There's a straight up flash, another like like I guess uh, memory where they go back and they it is Mark because the father invited him back to the funeral or to the wake or whatever. And Mark is just outside. He's trying to cope. He's drinking and like the father sees him outside. He's like trying to motion like, come on, it's okay. And he's like, I can't do it. No, I can't do it. And it's in that moment he reverts into Steven again. And
Well, no, this is the birth of Steven.
yeah, fully as his own independent personality, kind of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, Mark is like that's the moment where our lives started to actually sort of like merge, actually started to like interfere with one another. Uh, I will admit, there's another thing in this episode that I guess we gloss over because it's not as important, but it's still very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Is that we do get to see,
The birth of Moon Knight.
yeah, the birth of Moon Knight.
And this is what I mean by like you could see Khonshu's like influence like throughout even the show, and even especially in this episode, it's like there are moments of like hints of like, wait, is that Khonshu? Like, is that him? Because there's a moment where he like when Steven's walking in the past, following his younger self and his brother into the cave, he steps on like a dead bird's head,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't mean like a decaying bird. It's like a bone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and Khonshu is known for that head,
Mm-hmm.
and so and even Steven's like, no, Khonshu like manipulated you, like and this is accurate to the story too for Moon Knight is that he was a mercenary, and Khonshu gave him a chance to be a sort of come back to life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he was going to die.
Yeah,
And granted, and Mark is very much like maybe he did, or maybe it was just my way of continuing to do what I do.
mm-hmm.
I can't say.
Yeah, but I don't know. Do you think he manipulated him? I'm
Uh,
kind of on the boat that he did.
it's entirely possible. I mean, but when given the choice between dying or becoming
Mm-hmm.
the avatar of an Egyptian god where your entire life is just going around killing people, I mean, I guess I would take that second chance at life too. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but like it's really interesting.
Yeah, it is an interesting conversation. But yeah, but now that sort of truth is revealed, pretty much we get to a point where it's like they're trying to
Mm-hmm.
like it. While we don't see it, it's definitely implied that Harrow has started to do his thing
Mm-hmm.
as they're seeing like a bunch of souls being sent to the underworld, and it's like we got to go back. And Tawet or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
who was essentially kind of like I guess a spirit guide, essentially of like I'm gonna lead you guys to the afterlife.
Yeah, she's what's his name from the Greek myths?
Like
Charon,
yeah, Charon.
or however you
Chiron?
pronounce it. Yeah, Chiron.
He's like, all right, I guess I'll turn this boat around. I'll get us to the gate of Osiris.
Mm-hmm.
Get you guys back. We gotta keep the scales balanced. But as like they're trying to get back, like the scales still aren't balancing, and now like a bunch of undead souls are trying to drag Steven and Grant
Well,
down.
they're almost balanced because at this point it's like Steven and Mark kind of just accept each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like even Steven's like, it's not your fault, You were just a kid. None of this is your fault, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff happens, kind of shit. But yeah, no, they start fighting off the undead because if they get dragged down into the sands,
They're essentially,
they're fucked.
yeah, their souls are lost forever.
Yeah.
They get turned to stone, essentially. Uh, yeah, and like Mark has some struggles, and Steven starts to actually
Comes in all heroic.
yeah, he's like you know saves Mark a little bit, but ends up falling off the boat, and Mark's just like, we gotta stop the boat, and Steven, basically it's turned to stone. But at that moment, the scales are balanced.
And he ends up going back into.
To
Well, no, he doesn't go back. He goes to heaven, basically.
yeah, essentially
The Egyptian heaven.
yeah, the field of reeds as they call it.
By the way, did they mention the afterlife that they mentioned in Black Panther?
Yeah, because I think there's like a throwaway joke of like, really, this is the afterlife. And it's like, and I think Tao's like, well,
I mean,
it's just one version of of the afterlife. This sort of plane goes through so many places and has so many different connections. I mean, and it was the what was the name of the?
I forget, but it's the one that they mentioned in Black Panther.
Yeah, it's where all the previous Black Panthers go, right? Yeah. Oh, you're like, oh, that place is so beautiful.
It's like that was a really nice, beautiful place.
I mean, yeah, they made it visually.
But no, yes, that's essentially what the episode ends, and this is why, like, for me, it's like one of the most like amazing episodes they ever made in terms of not only storytelling but like acting wise, because like it's essentially majority 90% of it Oscar Isaac acting with himself.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
He's carrying the whole goddamn thing, and it's so good. Like, damn it, man, give this man an Oscar.
Give Oscar Isaac an Oscar.
Oh my god, it completes the cycle.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like has he won an Oscar yet? I have no idea.
If he hasn't, why has he not?
I don't know. Maybe it depends on the movies he's been in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
He was in Apocalypse.
X-Men: Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
I mean, was it a good? I mean, do we remember that being a good movie or?
I think I remember being just what kind of movie?
Yeah. But yeah, that's sort of Moon Knight. Because I'm pretty sure the next episode is the final episode.
Yeah, I've heard rumors that it might be the longest one though, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, but overall, yeah, Moon Knight has shaped up to be definitely another outside of the park, a home run, if you will, of a Marvel show.
Yeah, I think this is the best one.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, again, like, for me, I feel that there's gonna be some people that might be taken away by some of the more fantastical elements of the show. But then again, that's kind of like the thing about these shows that they can. That's kind of the thing about comics in general, even some of the bigger name ones like Marvel and DC. It's like they can do these kind of stories while still being in sort of a fantastical world. Like, this is the best example of that. Like, it's literally Steven and Mark where they're just in like limbo, having to confront their past and their issues and their trauma, while also talking to a hippo goddess who can talk, and taking them to the underworld, cracking jokes, making jokes about Ned Flanders, right? That's so comic book, and it's so good. That's one of the reasons why so many of us are comic fans. They can tell a very fun, fantastical story, and they can also do one that's rooted in a character's trauma. That's comic books in a nutshell, dude.
Yeah.
While they're also doing some down to earth ones like you see here and there. No, but I don't know how they're gonna end it in one episode, dude. That there's a lot. There's still a lot.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know. You have anything else to say about Moon
I
Knight?
mean, no, I think these past two episodes were very good, very solid, and I mean, yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting to see how it sort of all wraps up at the end. I mean, especially in terms of just where Mark will be. Because I think it's Tao outright states that if they even manage to get them back, he'll basically be in where his body was at the moment he died, which is back in the tomb, being with a bullet in his chest. So I mean, it's gonna be interesting how Moon Knight wraps up.
Yeah, how are they? And that's the thing that worries me because like a lot of these Marvel shows have been good until like the last episode, where it becomes kind of like, oh yeah, that's right, we're back to classic old Marvel, you know. But hopefully they nail this one.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Let's move on to Halo and the many questionable that are both good and bad of it.
Yeah. This is I think the past 2 episodes, I believe.
Okay, for episode 5, that one was pretty badass though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was a badass.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's episode 5 and 6, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where episode 5, we basically sort of pick up where we, I guess, left off of finding the next big artifact, and it's pretty much just sort of a dig. Like a good chunk of UNSC troops are there, digging stuff up. Halsey's there. Keyes shows up. Miranda shows up, and Miranda's like, "Let me study the thing," and Keyes like, "No."
Well, no, he's like, "Yes."
Yes, but then he's
like, "No."
Then he's like, "No,"
because if it hasn't been apparent, and it like Chief is starting to remember, and he's starting to have problems with stuff that happened.
Yeah, like straight up, Chief goes to Captain Keyes and is like, "Hey, I just got a memory of seeing Dr. Halsey as a kid, but with my parents still around. So I don't know what that's about." And Keyes is like, "That's interesting. I'll go talk about it." And he goes to the some of the commanding officers of the UNSC, and Halsey's like, "Yeah, Chief's remembering shit.
We might need to shut this down.
Yeah, this is probably gonna be a problem. Just gonna point it out." And Halsey's like, "It's fine. I got this handled.
There's a reason we make Cortana."
Yeah, there's a reason we have Cortana around or whatever.
Okay, yeah, and let's just throw out the weak part of the story out right now. Quan stuck in the desert. Old boy Soren trying to find a way home. She somehow escapes her little capture. She knocks out Soren and may or may not have killed him. I'm going with may not.
Well, I mean, the whole thing about which, by the way, it's very interesting how the Quan storyline only gets like one scene in this episode, in episode 5, and then episode 6 gets nothing because episode 6 is mainly more on just focusing. Definitely more on the Chief side.
Yeah.
And various other things.
Already it makes it better.
Yeah, which I mean, even though we haven't really mentioned much of some of our big issues with the story of the Halo show, the Quan storyline is definitely the most bad. It just
I want to root for her. I don't think she has the building. We've talked about this, you and me, like outside the podcast and everything about that. Is that she has like the building blocks of what could be a very, a character that an Ahsoka, if you will.
Yeah, because I mean I made that comparison I think to you once before, that she seems like she could be like an Ahsoka type character of like. Because in the beginning of the Clone Wars show, like as much I didn't watch all of it. Obviously, I know a good chunk of just of Ahsoka in the beginning was very like polarizing. Like she was like a bit bratty, just a whole lot of that. But she learns to mature, learns from her mistakes, grows, and becomes a very great character to the point where. Now the Ahsoka character has been in Rebels. She's gonna get her own Disney Plus spinoff show. Like
she was in Boba Fett and she was in Mandalorian.
Yeah, like she's that crazy popular of a character now.
Yeah, no, I get excited whenever I see her too.
Yeah, like so for me, like I feel like that's what they could do with Quan.
Yeah.
But at the moment, she's very one direction of like I must liberate my planet in to avenge my father, and like
And you get why? But
yeah.
she's so entitled and kind of bratty. I'm sorry, did I mean kinda? She is.
Yeah, like I mean, we said it I think before in like the previous episode where she goes back to her home planet and
Yeah.
tries to like find the resistance fighters. Like we got to rise up, we got to stop Varric or whatever, and it's like
No.
we can't. There's no,
This is a war of two fronts. We gotta choose one front.
yeah. It's like it's either we surrender our freedom to the UNSC to survive the Covenant, or just straight up die fighting for freedom. It's one or the other. I mean, either way, they're still gonna die because of the Covenant, and it's just one of those things that like doesn't seem like it's hitting Quan, because obviously the first episode she sees her entire like that whole outpost, including her dad, get murdered by aliens. And her first thing is like, I still gotta liberate my planet, and it's like you realize that there's a bunch of aliens out there that are indiscriminately killing humans and will stop at nothing, and they don't care about.
And they said that like, look, we can do this after the war, after the Covenant War.
Yeah, more or less.
And it's like it's just like she's not getting it, and she's not listening, and she's like, well, if you're not gonna do it, then I'm gonna do it. I'm like, but how?
Yeah, especially because
You got no money.
yeah, she doesn't really have like the money nor the charisma of a leadership.
The intelligence.
Yeah, especially considering the fact that like Soren straight up just locked her to a fucking dead bike, and she just kind of like, listen, I'm gonna go get some wheels. I'll be back. You stay there though, because I don't trust you.
Rightfully so too.
And she just there's a whole sequence of her just trying to bash this lock with a rock, and it definitely it makes it seem like she's just like a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, yeah, like you said, like she eventually manages to break out. She hides from Soren for a little bit, tases him a little bit, and takes his gun. And it seems like she contemplates about shooting him in the back of the head, which I mean would be very messed up, considering the fact that Soren has a family back at home, and that's really the only reason why he's like still around, kind of like. Listen, I gotta get back home to my family. This is all gone to shit. I'm going back home to my family.
Also, even though he kind of butts head with Chief, he at least keeps his promise.
Yeah, like I'm gonna keep you safe.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would be very messed up if she did actually just end up killing him anyway.
I don't think she's gonna kill him. I think what's gonna happen.
I don't think it either.
I think what's gonna happen is that she's gonna constantly like, I don't have the stomach for this. And she just opens up to Soren, and then that's when we start actually getting character out of her. That's what I hope happens. I doubt it.
I mean, yeah. I'll say this much.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be very messed up, especially because Soren's wife was giving her a bunch of speeches about revenge is not is not the way. All right, you just have to move on. Let go of your anger, essentially.
Yeah, more so it's just like there's nothing you can do. Like, you can't do anything at this point in time. Maybe in the future, maybe you can, but you're better off just like living for them. Living a life.
Yeah. And with the Quan story out of the way, we get back to sort of the main plot of the episode is retrieving the artifact, getting it out. And Chief very much kind of knows that Kai, the female Spartan who removed her little emotional inhibitor thing, like he knows that she did it, and he's very much like, yeah, you get back on the ship. We can't trust you.
You're too emotional at this moment.
And she's like, what about you? And Cortana's like, yeah, you're kind of right. I mean, you took your thing out too. We haven't tested your combat abilities. He's like, not now.
I can hear myself think.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm in your head. There ain't nothing there to think.
Yeah.
God, I love Jen Taylor.
Yeah.
They did a good job with Cortana.
Yeah, I think Cortana is definitely one of the elements of the plot of the Halo show that still works very well, and I think part of it is because Jen Taylor is still Cortana, and she still brings it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, Chief goes to confront Halsey
Mm-hmm.
about all that stuff, and basically he's like, "You lied to me. You kidnapped us," and like, and and Halsey's like, "Listen, all right, I can explain everything. You just gotta calm down, Chief." And Chief's like, "Nah."
Kind of shit.
Yeah, he just goes,
And I think there's a lot of people acting like this isn't Chief. He wouldn't act like this. And this is my reasoning. One, he doesn't have the chip thing. He's being overtly emotional right now, right? Because that was the whole
"Yeah,
point of the chip.
yeah, that is the whole point of the chip. It's to inhibit his emotions.
Mm-hmm.
With it gone, uh, you know, partially because Halsey was like, let him do it. If it helps us find the artifact, let him do it. So yeah, in a normal situation, right, Chief probably would, you know, just be like,
All right.
yeah, because we see the contrast between John and Kai with
Mm-hmm.
the other two Spartans who still have all of their augmentations and various
Mm-hmm.
suppressant stuff on them.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's a conversation that Kai has with the other Spartans. I forget if it's in the next episode, the latest one.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Stop asking me, don't ask questions."
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's very like headstrong and like all about the mission, and he doesn't really care about these conversations that Kai kind of brings up to him. And it's like really good. It's questions about like wait, so like questioning authority kind of thing,
Yeah.
and he doesn't want to hear it, and because he's not allowed to think it. Well, he can't think it because of the chip thing. But now that him and now that Kai and Chief have it off, they're starting to realize a lot of stuff. Hence why Chief is more aggressive.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, and Halsey has Cortana sort of activate the normal bridge thing to like basically knock him out.
Which can I just say though, this should have went ragdoll style.
I mean, I don't know how you're gonna act ragdoll. Like,
I just thought it'd be funny. Like it's just like a little nod to the games.
I mean, I guess I just don't know how they would pull that off.
I don't think. I know they wouldn't. I know it's not. They shouldn't do it. I'm saying that I agree. But I'm saying that if that was me,
I mean,
I would do it for funsies.
I mean, I don't know.
Maybe behind the scenes where they did it.
Okay. But yeah, pretty much what the UNSC messing with the artifact, trying to dig it out, causes it to be pinged by what's her name? The
Covenant chick. I'm just gonna call it that.
Yeah, the female woman who's with the Covenant, and they're like, she essentially gets a reading from it, from being awakened, kind of, and she's like, I know where the other second artifact is. Let's go get it. And that's more or less what happens because the Covenant pretty much show up and raid the excavation site. They destroy a ship, and it's like, all right, we got to get our game faces on. So it's a race to get the artifact back to a ship to get it out before the Covenant reach it.
Mm-hmm. And this is the most this Halo show called Halo has Haloed.
Yeah, because we do see a fight, pretty solid fights. We see Banshees flying around. We see a Jackal with an energy sword, which, I mean, I think that's pretty kind of cool.
I think it's more of the energy dagger, like the one from Reach.
Kind of, yeah, because I remember that was a thing in Reach.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kai is sent to, like, help protect some area by herself while Chief and the other two Spartans, try to protect the artifact, get it, onto a ship. Miranda gets caught in the crossfires. Like, her ship explodes, but she's able to get out before it explodes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like probably one of the only moments we see Halsey being like, "Oh shit, that's my daughter. I gotta go help her."
Yeah. like she does care about her kids. That her work is important to her, though.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. But no, it's also where we get some of the best action scenes in the whole show. and we kind of get also like the level of brutality that we kind of always known the Covenant being. Like some dude gets like needled. He gets needled hard
Yeah, we get to finally see some Needler action.
after teasing it,
Yeah, where they explain, oh yeah, this thing, if you get shot enough times, you just explode. Yeah,
and that's what happens.
yeah, is that?
All we saw was pink dust.
Yeah. Uh, Kai gets like injured mainly because of her inhibitor chip. Like just causes her like seeing all the stuff going around her. Like
Information overload.
yeah, and she's just like, I what? And she just starts getting like beat down by the Covenant, and she's like,
To be fair, she's outnumbered, and knowing how sometimes that can be a bitch for Spartans, yeah, I can see that.
I mean, yeah, and she's like, I gotta go help her out.
Yeah.
While Cortana's like, no, you gotta protect the artifact.
Yeah.
And he's like, I know what I'm doing. He jumps onto a Banshee. I mean, he doesn't hijack it, but
That'd have been cool.
Yeah, but he basically just like sort of steers it to crash into.
He muscles his way to that shit.
Yeah, and he just starts wrecking shop. You know,
the demon has come, Joy.
Yeah, more or less.
And that was so good. I know some people have an issue with like zooming into on his face, all Iron Man style, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. That was awesome.
I mean, yeah, we get to see some pretty cool action. And then, they manage. I mean, the artifact gets a bit tossed around.
Mm-hmm.
It lands in the middle of the battlefield, and Chief's like, I gotta go get it. But Covenant ship drops down with a brute chieftain.
Oh, that was so good.
We get Chief being like, Cortana, I need a weapon. And she's like, I'm not sure if it's going to help in this scenario, but okay.
But though, considering as a chieftain, I kind of agree with her.
I mean, yeah.
They are bastards.
Yeah, like, Chief tries to, like, fight the chieftain off, but he gets the artifact because, he has a gravity hammer, so he just comes right at him and just gets whisked away while they drop the Covenant lady. Down essentially to I guess get the other artifact, be a spy essentially, and that's where the episode ends, and then we get to the latest episode.
Chief tries to kill Halsey. I don't know how to feel about that.
It's more of like, so yeah, after like all the stuff that went down, Chief very much is like wants to know, all right, what can you do, Cortana? If you can knock me out, can you get me to actually stop me from doing this? Which is basically locking Halsey in a room, activating some stuff to basically just like kind of almost kill her. And Cortana's like, no, the only thing I can do is just knock you out. Like I have no control over any of your other bodily functions and that stuff. Like like you gotta like help her out, Chief. And at which point, yeah, Chief does break down the door, gets her out, and and just like she's like, yeah, I only did that just to see what your AI could do.
I mean, I believe it, Chief, but god damn, that was cold.
I mean, yeah.
And essentially the whole episode is like one confronting Halsey about the stuff that she did. Two, Chief kind of not being able to handle the whole, Forerunner artifact kind of shit. Like, even the chick herself says, like, I used to fight it. I used to fight the programming, but, like, I just let it go.
Well, she's very much, like, she can tell, like, with all the interactions she's had with the artifact, including in both these episodes, like, he straight up is, like feeling like some sort of like sickness or something, having to continue to interact with the artifacts because a lot of it is just him, like he's just touching it just to get more of his memories back. And the Covenant woman is like, hey, I mean, they did, I did that stuff with the Covenant, and I felt the same way like you did, I started to feel sick, very ill, but eventually I let myself go. And now, I can, like, sort of communicate with these things now. And she's sort of like, so please let me go near it and let me, like, try to see what I can do with it. Because, her whole bit at this point is just to, like, convince the UNSC, like, hey, I was a prisoner, but I can help you guys out. I think this is where the Covenant were, and this sort of part of the galaxy, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And Chief tells Keys about it, and they're like, all right, we got to search this area. This is probably where the Covenant homeworld is, or whatever, stuff like that. But obviously, like a lot of the Marines, especially like her guards, are like, hey, you got this, Chief. She's a squid head, no doubt about it. Like
Yeah, kind of that shit.
they don't keep human captives unless it's for some ulterior motive. Which I mean, hey,
Fair enough.
Fair enough. They got their heads on right because she is definitely a spy.
Yeah, no, and essentially, they're trying to look for a scapegoat too because it's clearly obvious stuff is about to get out.
Well, more or less, like it seems like the Spartans, given their performance in the in their last mission, are struggling, and the other commanding officers are like, I mean, we got to figure something out. These Spartans don't seem like they're doing as much work as they used to do. Which I mean, what else are they gonna do? But yeah, they essentially sort of kind of not necessarily disbar Dr. Halsey, but pretty much just say like, yeah, you're done. We're giving your lab to Miranda,
Mm-hmm.
and Halsey, back at her like I guess her apartment or whatever, is able to like, with Cortana, is able to like figure out like, okay, what are they doing here? They're gonna try to test the thing with John again. With Miranda at the helm? No, they don't know what they're doing.
They don't. But they also try to, don't forget that they're trying to get Halsey to talk about shit that happened with the Spartans. So much so that even Chief confronts her about it with Keys, the lady whose name escapes me.
Yeah.
And I don't know how Miranda got in there. I'm guessing she has clearance.
Yeah.
And they all just eventually watch and find out about, well, essentially what happened with the Spartans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kidnapped kids, clones died, and
Yeah, cover your tracks. And Halsey's just like it's our I saw it as as the way to like push humanity to the next stage of evolution. But now, with your interactions with this artifact, I think it's changed my whole perspective on the world. Like, there's something about these artifacts that like clearly there's something else out there.
She's not wrong.
I mean, yeah, not wrong at all. But yeah, I mean, the episode sort of comes to a climax where Chief Miranda decides to test the artifact again with Chief at the helm because Miranda does DNA tests and she finds that the Covenant lady and Chief have like the same like anomaly in their DNA, and she's sort of like she's like, I gotta test the artifact. Maybe if she says like she can communicate with it or whatever, maybe I can do the same. It's like, and Miranda's like, maybe she just might be doing that because since you're like looking a little ill there, it might kill you. Do we really want to risk it? And it's like, yes. And it's like, all right, I guess we're doing this. And yeah, he does touch the artifact, and like the Covenant lady, like straight up, I think almost tries to escape because she's like, hey, he's gonna touch the artifact, I gotta stop him or whatever. But like, they get like a bit of a mind link almost because as soon as he touches it, he starts to like freak out. She starts to go into a seizure.
Yeah, she starts going. Yeah, big seizure moment, and like Chief's going through some shit. He's about to die.
Yeah, and like Halsey just seeing like the vitals back at her apartment, but there's a point where Chief just like he's able to break through it. He and this Covenant lady are on this open plain, and we see it. It's the Halo.
Yeah,
on Halo, you get a little even bit of the little Halo theme in there.
Oh, that felt so good to hear.
I mean, it was very subtle. I would have liked it if it was a bit more bombastic, but yes, sure, it's there.
Once they reach, it'll be bombastic.
Okay, they probably won't reach it at the end of this season.
No.
But the point is, yeah, Chief gets, sort of snaps back into reality.
Yeah.
Uh, and Miranda's like, "What did you see, Chief?" And that's where the episode ends.
Yeah, because how can you explain the fact that you just saw a world ring and how crazy that is?
Well, yeah, more of like Chief probably knows. I think I know what the Halo is, but where to find it though, that's the real.
Mm.
You know. But yeah, overall. But yeah, that's where the episode ends. We still have 3 episodes to go because
Yeah.
it's episode 6. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I will say this. I like these 2 episodes. I mean, I know that the common consensus with the Halo show is that it is a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I know. There's a good chunk of hardcore Halo fans that are like, the show sucks. I don't like it. That sort of thing, and I get that. I understand that completely. And I still have problems with the show as well.
But when it's good,
Yeah, when it does things right, I think it does things right, and I know that a lot of people just really harp on this show simply because of a lot of the changes and just saying of like, oh, it just we want to be different from the games or whatever, and it's like, well, why did why is it called Halo then, you know, and yeah, I get all the, I think a lot of the criticisms of the show are valid. I mean, we spent like probably the first 15 minutes about talking about these past 2 episodes, just talking about the Quan storyline not being like great at all.
mm-hmm.
So I mean, we have,
but we also acknowledge that they have the potential to make it better.
yeah, like I think my thing with the Halo show is that it has potential to be good, but right now it is just very mediocre to me.
Mm-hmm.
When it does things that are interesting and neat and cool, it does do that. But there's just other moments of just like, what? Like there's just various decisions made in this show, and
Mm-hmm.
just like I'm just like, what? You know,
Well, remember they're just starting to do season 2, so maybe they'll hear the complaints and hopefully address them and try to make them better.
yeah. I mean, that's, you can only hope, or they might be like, oh, it's just a bunch of angry fanboys. Let's not listen to those guys. Let's just keep doing our own thing, which is like, I mean, that happens sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, that's just probably the I mean, I won't lie. It is pretty interesting that they got the green light for a second season, like before the first episode even was aired on
Mm-hmm.
on Paramount Plus. But yeah, it's gonna be a very interesting experience, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
With these next 3 episodes, because I mean, I don't think we'll get to see.
We won't get to Halo,
Yeah,
but we'll get the revelation. We might not get the revelation of what Halo technically is, but we might get the idea like, okay, we all know where we need to go, and maybe Halo season 2 is them on Halo. Maybe we'll find out about the flood. Hopefully, because the flood was always kind of fun.
I will say this. I think I remember saying that it would be interesting to see them like do the Fall of Reach.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they'll be able to do it in 3 episodes, but at the same time, they did bring the Covenant lady to Reach. And if she gets back to the Covenant, she would basically be telling the Covenant where Reach is.
Oh shit.
Yeah. I'm just putting that out there. Again, I don't think they'll be able to do like the Fall of Reach in the next 3 episodes.
No, but that may be a season 2 shit.
Yeah, probably. Or I don't know. I mean, listen. I mean, I have no freaking idea if they're actually gonna like keep this Covenant lady around for any longer, or they'll just be like, "Nah, you're staying with us with the humans for a while. If we let you go back now, we ain't gonna let you tell the Covenant where the fuck Reach is,
Mm.
or even where Earth is. No. um, but yeah, I am still cautiously optimistic about the Halo show. I hope, I pray, the Quan storyline actually gets good and isn't just some weird, dumb filler stuff whenever Master Chief isn't doing
Well,
Master
there is
Chief.
a theory that she could end up being one of the first Spartan 3s.
I mean, I guess, but then what does that do with their character?
Fair enough. We'll see. Anyways, guys, that's the end of the episode. If you enjoy what you heard, you can follow us on all social medias: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I think it's Centurions. We're the most active on Instagram, where you find a link to all the podcasting sites we're officially part of, like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, all that good stuff, and a link tree to our YouTube, where you can put a face to the voice for all you audio listeners out there. And if you're on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. We do have a Patreon for the support. If any of you wish to do that, go ahead. And yeah, that's the end of the episode. Thank you for checking us out and hearing us talk about Moon Knight and Halo. We'll see what next week's episode is going to be about. We'll see. We'll find out. And yeah, that's it. It's me, your boy Eli.
Me, Joe.
So you guys have a good one. Peace.